We are now ready to add some code so that we can save some data in Firestore. And if you remember, when we talked about documents in Firestore, we said that documents are just a map of key value pairs, such as this one. And we have also learned that we can point to specific collections or documents in Firestore by providing a path which looks like this. So what we want to do as a next step is to add a method to our Firestore database so that we can write a map of key value pairs to a specific location in Firestore. So to do that, we can head to our Firestore database class that we have over here. And in here, I'm going to add a new method. So this is going to be a void method called createJob. And it takes one argument of type map with string and dynamic. And I'm going to call this job data, like this. Then in the implementation of this method, we can start by defining a path. So I can type final path equals, and then within single quotes, /users $UID, and then /jobs, like this. And then I need to decide what ID I want to use for my job. So in this example, we have users /user123 /jobs and then /job ABC. So at this point, we just want to get something working. So it doesn't really matter what ID we choose. And so I can just type in something like job_ABC, for example. Okay, so once we have a valid path, I need to retrieve something that is called a document reference to that path. So to do that, I'm going to type final document reference equals, and then firestore.instance.document, like this. And then I'm going to pass in the path that we have just created. And I also need to remember to import Cloud Firestore so that we can use this code. Now it seems like Android Studio is not helping, so I'm going to do this manually. And so here I can type in import, and then within single quotes, Cloud Firestore, and then I want this file, which is called like this. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is to write my job data into this reference location. So to do that, I can type document reference.set data, like this, and I can just pass in job data, like this. Okay, so this is the minimum amount of code that we need to save a document in Firestore. Before we run this code, I want to point out that setData is a method that returns a future. So it is a good idea to add an await call over here. And for this reason, we need to make this method an async method, like this. And accordingly, we can make it return a future of type void, like this. And here also we get a little warning, which we can resolve by importing Dart::async, like this. Okay, so to summarize, this method takes a map of key value pairs that represent the fields that we want to write into our document. We then create a path that represents the location where we want to write in Firestore. And then we retrieve a document reference. And the way we do this is by accessing the firestore.instance, which is a singleton object that gives us access to all the methods in Cloud Firestore. And in fact, we need to import Cloud Firestore.dart to use this. And finally, we write our data at the location pointed by this document reference, and we await for the operation to complete. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that here we use the UID of the currently signed in user, which is an instance variable of our Firestore database class. And this is how we can write user-specific data to our database. Okay, so now that we have done all of this, we can hook up this method to the callback of our floating action button in the jobs page. So let's open the jobs page, and inside the create method, we can get our database by typing final database equals provider dot of and then database with context, like this. We need to import database. And like we have done before, we can add a build context argument to this method. So here I can type build context, like this, which resolves this compilation error, and we need to remember to pass the context in the callback of our button. So we can do this like this. And next, we want to call the createJob method in our database class. And before we can do that, we need to remember to make the createJob method available in the abstract class database that we have over here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it like this. And then back to the jobs page, I can now type database.createJob. And here we can pass a map. So I can just type in square brackets like this. And then I need to pass some arguments. So the first one could be the name. And for now, I'm just going, for example, to write blogging like this. And then we want to pass in a rate per hour. And here, for example, I could just use the value 10 like this. And the last thing that we want to do before we run this code is to make sure that we await on this call. And that means that we need to make this method asynchronous and make it return a future like this. Okay, so with all these changes, we should now be able to save and hot reload, and we can also open up the Firebase console at this page. And what should happen is that when we press the plus button on the simulator, then some data should appear on this page. So I can press this button, and it seems like nothing has happened here. However, I suggest that we should reload the page because sometimes the Firebase console doesn't show the changes in real time. So I can reload. And now that the page has loaded, I can see that there is a new user document over here. And this has a jobs collection with a job ABC job inside it. And here we can see the fields that we have written from our code. So this confirms that we are able to write data to Firestore. So our code works. And just to be clear, here we are writing an arbitrary map of key value pairs. And that's because our first goal was to learn how to write data to Firestore. And we will see later on how to build a form where the user can enter the job name and the rate per hour. But for now, we are happy with this and we can continue on the next video.